Ever since the beginning of the series of Black Clover, one of the biggest mysteries was the devil that resided in Asta's five-leaf clover grimoire. Why is he in the grimoire, and who is this devil? Well, we might be able to answer the latter question. Who is the anti-magic devil? This is another one of my theories that will take spoilers from the manga, so if you're an anime only, then you might not want to watch, although this is a pretty spicy one, so you may want to stick around. With that being said, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and also if you want to hire me as an online personal trainer, please check out my website. I'm currently running a fall sale, reducing my prices to just $99 a month. I will give you countless recipes, diet advice, design programs for you, analyze your form and posture, and much more for a price of less than a cup of coffee per day. So if you want to get back in shape by the spring or next summer, check out my website. With that being said, let's get into this theory on who the anti-magic devil is. At first, I'm going to have to bring up some of my previous theories and coalesce them together to form a broader theory of who the devil is. One of the most popular theories that I had was that Asta and Yuno were the twin sons of Licht and Tetia, or more accurately, that their bodies were the designated hosts for the souls of those twins. This theory ended up being partially right once it was revealed that Yuno was indeed the host for the son of Licht and Tetia. Now this theory made tons of sense because of a lot of build-up and foreshadowing, but it was also these similarities between Licht and Tetia and Asta and Yuno that made it seem like that there could be some relation there, even just as hosts. Just looking at it, you could easily see Yuno being the child of Licht and Tetia. He has a four-leaf clover like Licht, uses wind magic like Tetia, and can wield swords like Licht. He even just looks like them. Same goes for Asta. You can easily see him as being the son of Licht and Tetia. He even has a similar body stature to the males of the Silva Millions, being of smaller stature like Tetia's brother, or would be Licht Jr.'s uncle, Lumiere. Meanwhile, Asta used swords like Licht and even used his very own grimoire and swords, which made it a seemingly convenient tie to call them the quasi-father and son. Now, for the longest time, it was believed that Tetia died with Yuno's elven spirit inside of her, and there was no room for any sort of twin theory, as it was never stated that they had twins, which put Asta's origin back into the realm of what I wish him to be, just a normal dude who wasn't born with magic. But with recent revelations in the manga, this theory might come back to fruition. It was revealed in chapter 265 that Tetia was actually expecting twins, and while Yuno's spirit was killed in the attack, the other one survived along with Tetia, as Sekra had sealed away her wounds just in the nick of time for her and her child to survive. This child would go on and also have descendants of their own, which means they lived a decent life, as the elven children we see at the end of the Elf arc would end up being the descendants of Licht and Tetia's son, essentially making them human-elven hybrids themselves. Now, not much is known of the descendants, nor the actual surviving twin of Licht and Tetia, but I think through very implicit bits of foreshadowing that this person, that I'm going to call now Licht Jr., became an incredibly powerful warrior. I think what happened here is that Licht Jr. lived a long, great life as an incredible hero. Once revealed, I'm sure that he will be one of the strongest characters in the series, being a hybrid son of Licht, while potentially having two magic types. I think what supports this is that Licht dies around the village of Haj, but his swords are all discovered in completely different areas. While the Demon Slayer dwelled in the Grimoire, the Demon Dweller was in the dungeon that was near the Diamond Kingdom. The Demon Destroyer was in the strong magic region of the Gravito Stone, and it is implied that there are more swords out there, as when it shows in the flashback with Licht. There are multiple swords staked into the ground around him, so there are likely even more special demon swords scattered around the Clover Kingdom, or even further around the continent. The incredibly important thing to note here is that the Demon Dweller sword and the Wind Spirit itself were found in the same dungeon very close to each other. Knowing that hybrids can have multiple magic types, if Licht Jr. were to have two magic types, then it would likely be sword and wind magic. So is it just incredibly convenient that a sword item and the wind spirit were both found this close to each other? I don't think so. I think that either Licht Jr. left them there or lost them there. Now you might be thinking that Licht Jr. couldn't have used the swords because the five-leaf grimoire was locked away, but that isn't entirely true. In fact, we don't even know if it was indeed Sekre that hid the grimoire in the wall. For one, Sekre turned into a bird and fell asleep for several years right after the battle with Sigrid. So there were several years where she didn't know where the grimoire was, and it didn't show her putting it there because it shows her turning to a bird right after the battle with Sigrid. Also, what really backs this up is with Droat. Droat is the Grimoire Tower Overseer. He knows of the five-leaf clover grimoire, but how could he know of the five-leaf clover grimoire? Probably because he knew of the exploits of Licht Jr. This means at one point it was not in the wall, that it was probably put there by Drode himself after the exploits of Licht Jr. So there was no way that he would know that that was Licht's grimoire, because if he had seen Licht before his fall to darkness, the grimoire before that was a 4-leaf grimoire in a different color, which would make it much more unrecognizable. I think that Drode is the one who put the 5-leaf clover grimoire in the wall while Sekiro was asleep. I think what happened here is that Licht Jr. took up the mantle of his father as the Demon Slayer, used his swords and probably even his grimoire to do battle against the devils and demons. At some point, Licht Jr. could have gone through grave despair and fell to a status of a dark elf, where he eventually would turn into and fully evolve into a devil. I have a theory with Jack Oates about devils being fallen elves, similar to how many devils in demonology are fallen angels, and elves being a mythic parallel to angels in mythology. So I suggest you check that one out, but what even further backs this up is that the anti-magic devil, or possibly it actually being Licht Jr., called Zagred his elder. This could be because at the time of Zagred's shenanigans, Licht Jr. was just a fetus and didn't become a devil till later, thus making Zagred an elder devil to the younger Licht Jr. What actually is the most damning point of this theory is that the anti-magic devil looks just like Asta. In the most recent chapter of 266, Asta must face his devil in order to gain more power. The anti-magic devil's face is finally revealed, and he looks jarringly similar to Asta. Basically, just if you took Asta, made him an elf, and made him corrupted. He looks just like a devil-corrupted elven Asta. Now, if we took this comparison and tried to make a parallel to Yuno, compare Yuno to Elven Yuno, and then if Elven Yuno had gotten corrupted, this would be the parallel to each other. So, just think about that. I think that it drastically parallels their looks here and massively backs up the fact that the anti-magic devil is a corrupted Licht Jr. who turned into a devil, and that Licht Jr. and Asta was supposed to be the soul, and Asta was supposed to be his host. And while Zagred made a spell to bring bodies for everyone in the future, Asta was never possessed because Licht Jr. survived and was actually, in a sense, still alive because he was in the 5-leaf clover grimoire. Now you might say that Asta not being possessed kills this theory, but I don't agree. Mimosa is a spitting image of Tetia. In fact, I remember looking at the raws, of the chapter raws of her flashback chapters, and being at first confused on why Mimosa was getting married to Licht, before I realized, no, that's Lumiere's sister. I think that Zagred's spell might have taken account for Licht Jr. and Tetia, even though they survived. And that is why Mimosa looks exactly like Tetia 500 years later, and Asta is never possessed. Or, I guess not in that way, because Licht Jr. is already with him. The anti-magic devil even says in his first confrontation with Asta that he has been closer to Asta than anyone, which in my honest opinion doesn't make that much sense at that time, as at that time the anti-magic devil had only been in Asta's grimoire, and Asta hadn't really been possessed by him, and he'd only had the grimoire for a few months at the time. It would make way more sense if this was the actual soul of Licht Jr. and he felt a connection to that of Asta, just like how some of the other elves felt connections to their hosts back in the Elf arc. Maybe Asta was born without magic because of the defective mutation from Zagred's resurrection spell, or maybe it was a part of the anti-magic devil's doing so that Asta could wield the grimoire and swords and he could finally possess the host he was originally intended to, but through different means. I wouldn't be surprised if the anti-magic devil, or Licht Jr., hates the devils because he was turned into one, and he was a son of Licht who is a demon slayer. Maybe Lucifero is the one who turned him into a devil and banished him into the grimoire or sealed him there, and that is why he was so angry at Dante and Lucifero. I mean, we've seen Asta get his ass beat before, but the anti-magic devil never acted with that much of a fit of rage against the other villains. For example, the Witch Queen. The anti-magic devil was very calm and just wanted to take over Asta's body, whereas against Lucifero, just look at this rage. Lucifero as the lead devil might be the one that Licht Jr. and the anti-magic devil has a bone to pick with. Maybe Lucifero is the one who turned or caused the despair of Licht Jr. to turn into a devil, and then that devil would then get sealed into the grimoire by Lucifero. So yeah, absolute crazy theory there, guys, but let me know your thoughts down below if you enjoyed this theory. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out my personal training website if you want to hire me as an online personal trainer. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Plus...